Welcome back. Today is all about matcha. If you are a matcha lover, you are not a real matcha lover unless you've tried no milk matcha. This video tutorial is for those that have not yet tried no milk matcha, particularly 3 types of matcha drinks: usucha, koicha, and clear matcha. Stick around until the end of this video clip and also bookmark this video for future references. Many of you might have already tried matcha latte, but this time these are all matcha drinks that have no milk at all. And I'm going to show you 3 different types. If you're drinking matcha on a daily basis without milk, this is where you get the most benefit of the antioxidants in matcha. Needless to say, you still can try latte, but this time, if you have a specialty matcha shop, you must be able to offer these 3 types of drink. And surprisingly, the 3rd type, which is the more modern way of making clear matcha, is now getting more popular. So let's start with the ingredients. To make clear matcha or no milk matcha, it's very important that you get a very high grade matcha. So I'm using here Ceremonial grade matcha. As you can see, this will have a very deep green, vibrant green color, and the aroma is so heavenly, grassy smell, but fresh grassy leaves. And then you also need hot water, just water and your matcha. For the water, I would suggest that you use a kettle that's specially designed to have the right temperature. In this case, I'm using 80 degrees, and this is just what I use. Anything lower than this and you don't get that umami taste, and anything higher, you get a bitter taste of matcha, regardless of how good your matcha is. First is the bowl, or the Chao. I would suggest that you use a wide rim bowl, slightly deep, and also more oval bottom, not like squarish bottom, and this way you can whisk the matcha and you get a good broth. Next, you need a good whisk. For a clear matcha, koicha, usucha, it's important that you use a very good quality whisk. This is a whisk made in Japan, which is handcrafted, whereas this is a whisk made in China. The price difference is quite high. The one made in Japan would be about 5 times more than the price of those made in China, but then it's longer lasting, it's more durable, and it's more likely that you get a good foam on your matcha drink. Now, in terms of those that are using Japanese whisk, I have here 2 types of whisk. One is for thin matcha, which will have softer bristles, and then I have here for my thick matcha, which will have harder bristles. And if you don't have both of these, you can also use just one or the other. This is called chasaku, or the tea scoop. What you need is to measure your matcha to precision. You need about 1 gram. 1 heaping scoop of this tea, of this teaspoon, is about 1 gram. So something like this, not this much, nor this much. So if you don't have a scale, using a chasaku helps. Another tool that you would need would be a sifter. If you're going to make clear matcha, it's very important that you sift the matcha, because matcha are not powder, they are ground leaves. So you don't want any clumps, so you use a sift. And also, these are just metals there, so that it helps you sift it faster without having to use your spoon and ruin your spoon, and also saves a lot of time. Finally, you should also use the scale, especially if you have a matcha bar. This is very important that you get the exact quantity of matcha or amount of matcha in your bowl, and make sure that you serve something which is consistently good. You've got your matcha, you've got your tools ready. It is time to make your clear matcha. We're going to start with the first one, which is koicha matcha. Koicha matcha is a thick, concentrated matcha with a very low matcha water to matcha ratio. So you use a lot of matcha with very little water. Now, when is koicha matcha served? This is typically served in a formal tea ceremony in Japan after every tea ceremonies or meal. But it is not just for one person. It is typically made in one bowl and passed around the guests. So you share this matcha. It's very thick, very concentrated. You need a very high grade of matcha. Let's go ahead and make this. what I'm going to do is to prepare the bowl first. I'm going to pour hot water into the bowl. And then I'm going to prepare my whisk. Using a Japanese matcha, you won't have the problem of any of the bristles falling apart. You might have problems with them being cut off at the end, but still that is perfectly fine. So I'm just going to rotate my whisk in the hot water for about 30 seconds and I'm ready. Koicha matcha is typically served hot. You don't serve it cold. Okay, so make sure your bowl is clean. And now we are going to start preparing our matcha. And what I'm going to use here is 4 grams of my matcha. So using a tea scoop, this is approximately 1 gram. As you can see, it is 1.0, exactly 1 gram. And then 2 grams, just a little bit more, 3 and 4 grams of matcha. Now this is 4.1. I don't want to have too much. These are really precious powder. I'm talking about as close to $1 per 1 gram. So you can imagine how precious that powder is. Okay, so slightly over. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sift this. So the metal there, 3 metal there, helps to make sure the process is faster. This is now the more modern way of making matcha. Okay, so make sure everything goes into your bowl. Now I'm going to keep this, and then what I'm going to do here, 4 grams of matcha to only 30 ml of 80 degrees Celsius water. Okay, and it's time to whisk. For Koicha, you don't really whisk it because it will be very thick. So I'm going to start by slowly whisking, touching the bottom of my bowl, but very, very lightly. You don't want to ruin your whisk, nor do you want to ruin your bowl. Okay, now I'm going to whisk it fast. And it's really, this process is more kneading. That's why you need a stronger matcha whisk. That means with harder bristles. Okay? So this is a very concentrated, clear matcha or Koicha. Make sure you put your whisk upside down, and I have my beautiful, vibrant, deep green Koicha matcha. How does it taste like? The texture is just so creamy, and all you put here is just water. This is not going to work if you're going to use a low-grade matcha. Let me give this a try. Wow, that is just smooth. There is absolutely no hint of bitterness in this one because this is, as I've said, a very high grade of matcha. It's not something to be taken by just one person. This is only 30 ml, but very strong matcha. Not like seaweed or raw fish at all. Absolutely delicious. Now, this is a very strong matcha, not to be taken by just one person. So you should serve it around the table and let each one take a sip. For modern matcha specialty shop, you can use this for making other recipes like matcha affogato. You can put this on top of a scoop of ice cream and you get that perfectly delicious matcha affogato. And also, where I am, what I use Koicha matcha for is to put this on top of chilled milk, making it my dirty matcha. So there are a few applications, but definitely not to be taken just like this and in one sip. Now you know everything you have to know about making thick concentrated matcha, which is called Koicha. This concludes our part 1 of the series for clear matcha. Stay tuned for part 2, which is the more friendly version of Koicha matcha, Usucha. Until then, ciao for now.